How to turn your New Year's resolutions into goals. My name's Ben Davies. I'm a chartered psychologist and I've been working with Chimp Management now for 10 years. So it might help to start with if we familiarise ourselves with the Chimp model that we're going to use to answer this question. The Chimp model is a framework that uses the neuroscience and breaks the mind into three different teams. So the chimp represents part of our brain that is able to independently think using emotions. So this is a part of our brain that we share with the great apes. It is the part that is constantly looking out for our survival, and it uses feelings to talk to us. Okay, it's not good or bad. It's just a part of our brain that uses emotions. So we can see that in real life, this can sometimes be really helpful, but also unhelpful. We've got a part of the brain that can also think using rationality and logic. That represents who we really are as a person. So this is us and our values. And then there's a third part of the brain, which is this backup reference center that kind of sits behind the chimp and the human. And it's basically guiding them based on information it's been programmed in the past. So in the computer, we'd expect to see things like habits in terms of our beliefs and what we hold about ourselves, others, and the way the world works, or even behavioral habits, just things we do often. So muscle memory is a great example of this. I'm sure we've all been there where we get to the end of the year and there's this tradition now to set New Year's resolutions. And often it can be typical that we set them with good intentions and then it's a couple of weeks or months down the line where we find it really hard to commit to them. And we go against them quite often. So if we look at this from the Chimp model point of view to try and understand why does this happen and what can we do about it, we're going to start by looking at the difference between what is a dream and what is a goal. So when we set a resolution of, let's say, for instance, I'd like to be more patient. If we look at the Chimp model, that's not really within our control. That is an outcome that we're trying to achieve. So we could call it a dream. We'd love it to happen. However, there's loads of things that might go against that actually happening. So it's probably not wise us setting that as a goal, because a goal is something we can control and we want to give the chimp that feeling of control to work towards it. So a goal within that could be, I'm going to understand why for me it's difficult to remain patient. So why does my chimp struggle with being patient? What are the things that derail it? What are its triggers? And I'm going to learn some strategies or some coping mechanisms. And I'm actually going to try and practice those week by week by week. Those are my goals now, to set those practice regimes and commit to them, with the hope that if I do that for often enough, the dream of being patient and letting that version of myself sort of come out a bit more comes to life. If we're looking at a company or an organization, the same rule still applies. You know, you may have loads of resolutions you want to set yourselves. For instance, I want a bigger reach. I want to help more people with whatever it is that our company's doing. And again, let's not get, into the trap of setting that as the resolution, as setting that as the goal. The reality is that's a dream that we'd like to achieve. Brilliant. Let's write it down. Let's have it to look at. But now we're going to have to come up with some goals that are a bit more actionable, a bit more short term and within our control. So it might be, let's try and learn who there is out there that could have our support more. Let's look at what they're wanting from us. Let's maybe look internally at our company and think, where are the areas we need to upskill and do some training to try and help us help more people? Those now could start to create the goals that we're going to commit to week by week by week, with the hope that if we do this over a long period of time, the dream of having a better reach, helping more people comes to life. So heading into committing to your New Year's resolutions or your goals that we've just spoke about, it would be reasonable for you to think, right, I've thought about it. I've come up with some plans. I've got that sort of enthusiasm at the start of the year. It's reasonable to expect it to go well. Whereas just have a think based on your experience, what tends to happen? What's living as a human being actually like? And what is life actually like? Because if we're not realistic about how this is going to pan out, we are now vulnerable to our chimps hijacking us and making it more difficult. So we've had this all the time where at the start of the year, we've set these resolutions and for whatever reason, we break them. And now our chimp comes in with its reaction. Again, it's not good or bad, the chimp, but it can be unhelpful in that maybe it gets catastrophic, maybe it goes avoidant, maybe it tries too quickly to correct the problem. Whereas actually, if we're looking at resilience here and we want to respond to these situations, it's more helpful that going into it, we're realistic about what's likely to happen. It's likely to not go to plan exactly how you wanted it to. There's likely to be setbacks and challenges that we didn't anticipate at this point. We're also vulnerable to our chimps hijacking us. Our chimps feel really great now on January 1st, but what's our chimps going to feel like on January 14th or even in February? So it's more helpful if we're realistic about the variability and we've got a plan to meet it. Now, in terms of the chimp hijack that will inevitably happen, I think a plan that might be of use, which is described in A Path Through the Jungle and the Chimp Paradox, is the NEAT principle. So remembering that if you experience a chimp hijack, it is completely normal. That is what's meant to happen. We're not going to go through the rest of our lives scot-free without a chimp reaction. If we can expect that to happen, that's part of being a human being. It's part of living with this other part of our brain that functions very differently. And we can accept that it's going to happen. Now, actually, we can focus our attention on taking care of it. So what does my chimp now need to refocus me back onto committing to my goals? And also spare a thought for it's probably not easy for your chimp to commit to these new goals. You're essentially saying it's a new habit. You're changing how you operate. So it might help if you put some sweeteners in the road for your chimp. Have you thought about how you're going to reward your chimp for sticking to this new goal? Are you going to look at how you're going to look back down the mountain and track your progress? And it might even be really helpful for the chimp to involve other people in your goals for the new year. Tell them what you're trying to do and tell them the support you think you need, because that can be a really helpful thing for your chimp to involve its troop and help it to be accountable. So thank you very much for listening. My hope is that this is giving you some helpful insights to help you break down what is your resolutions into actionable, controllable goals that will help the chances of those resolutions occurring. Look after your chimp throughout the journey of doing this. Remember, your chimp's very different to you and it probably needs some sweeteners along the way to keep it committed. And from all of us at Chimp Management, I wish you and your chimp a very Merry Christmas.